Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Genomics Bootcamp. Now, unconventionally, from the top corner of the screen. Hello. Recently, there was a major development in the field of genetics and genomics, and namely that there was a report published in July 2021, and this is the report that you see on the screen. There was a report published from the World Health Organization's Expert Advisory Committee on developing global standards for governance and oversight of human genome editing. So yes, you heard right. This is about human genome editing technique, which is very new, and it is controversial also in terms of plants and animals. But this document goes into details about its application in humans. So buckle up because this will be a wild ride. If you're interested about this topic and you want to see more of it on this channel, then make sure to like the video, comment with your questions or overall comments in the comment section, and share this video with your friends and colleagues. Also check out the other videos on this channel on the matter, and one is about the overall use of genome editing or the possibilities of use, and the other one is a discussion video about the use of human genome editing for human enhancement, which is also based on this particular report from the World Health Organization. The links for all of these, as well as the full text of the reports I am talking about or what you are seeing on the screen, are in the description of the video below. So this video is not primarily about talking in detail about genome editing or what it is or its definitions, but I thought a short introduction would be great. So I called up the Wikipedia page, which actually has a very nice and short definition that says that genome editing or genome engineering or gene editing, which are synonyms, is the type of genetic engineering in which a DNA is inserted, deleted, modified or replaced in the genome of a living organism, unlike other early genetic engineering techniques that randomly inserted such genetic material into the host genome. The genome editing targets insertions with a very specific locations. So in other words, we have the ability with the genome editing to target a very specific site and change the genome in a very specific way to get the outcome we desire and the trait implemented in the new organism according to our needs. So here is the same thing with the graphical representation. So here we have the initial genome, and basically we identify a site, perform a double-strand break, and then either insert some part from another genome, and this other genome could be, or usually is, an individual from the same species, or we can just modify this part with some other technique. Here is another simple visualization of the same thing. So we have the initial genome, we perform here the double-strand break, add a new part, and we have a new genomic sequence with the target gene already inside. Well, there are multiple ways how to use genome editing, and one of them is the non-heritable, basically gene therapy. But the other one, which I think steers more waters, is the heritable form of gene editing. Here, the gene editing is done in an early stage embryo, which then is inserted in the surrogate mother, and basically the mutant founders are born, which means that here the edit is part of the normal genome of those individuals, and then they are passed down to their offspring. So basically, we are implementing heritable and long-lasting changes into the populations. And this is already controversial when we talk about animal and plant and livestock populations. But now the game was increased even more, because right now we are talking about editing humans and introducing potentially long-lasting changes in human populations. So we are back to our position paper from the World Health Organization's committee. In this video, what I will do is I will go through the text and basically read the text and perhaps add some comments. as I said before, so the full text is available. So I just encourage you to download it and also read it yourself in detail. So the full text is 15 pages, but the main part is this executive summary, which is about 5 pages, so it's not too long. Anyway, so I will not read the whole thing, but well, I went through and highlighted some parts, so I will basically comment or read and comment those. At the end of this video, I will give my overall impression on the report and thoughts about the human genome editing or what this report means. So it says, executive summary. The recent application of tools such as CRISPR-Cas, clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats, Cas9 nuclease, to edit the human genome with the intention of treating or preventing disease and the gaps in our scientific understanding, in addition to some of the proposed application of human genome editing, raise ethical issues that have highlighted the need of robust oversight in this area. The COVID-19 pandemic has already demonstrated the importance of using new tools and methods to combat serious diseases, highlighted the potential benefits of human genome editing research. It also reminds us the need to develop the technology carefully with robust testing and quality assurance measures in place to maximize benefit and minimize harm. The balance between benefit and harm, safety and speed, and innovation and access is relevant to all human genome editing. In December 2018, the World Health Organization established a global multidisciplinary expert advisory committee to examine the specific ethical, social, and legal challenges associated with human genome editing, somatic, germline, and heritable human genome editing. The committee was tasked to advise and make recommendations on appropriate institutional, national, regional, and global governance mechanisms for human genome editing. Its remit did not include a review of matters to do with safety and efficiency. Committee members were drawn from each of the WHO regions: Africa, Americas, Southeast Asia, Europe, Eastern Mediterranean, and Western Pacific. So from this first part, we learned that this is an effort or the culmination of an effort that was going on for some years now, namely from 2018. The triggering point for this whole committee being put together was, of course, the first use of genome and human genome editing, when a scientist quite surprisingly announced that there are actually 2 babies born already with genome edited babies, and the edit was done to increase their resistance or give them immunity for the HIV. Of course, this announcement was very surprising and followed by substantial international backlash. And the scientist in question was, I think, also jailed and banned from further research on this matter. Nevertheless, the event served as a triggering point to establish this committee. And basically, everybody knew that the human genome editing is a possibility. But this announcement, this surprise, made it clear that something needs to be done on a global scale. Also, I would highlight here that this committee made an advice and make recommendations. So this is in no way binding for anyone, or basically this is just the first screening of the possibilities or what needs to be done and how the human genome editing needs to be regulated or what regulation mechanisms need to be in place. So this is likely just a first step from the many, many following steps that will be coming in the future. So we jump a little bit in the text, and this paragraph is quite interesting. It says, the governance framework and the recommendations on the human genome editing from a pair of records that have been developed by the WHO Expert Advisory Committee in developing global standards for governance and oversight of human genome editing. This position paper provides a summary of these 2 publications, meaning that there are these 2 larger documents. Each of them is about 60 pages. But both of them are also available, and the links down in the description below. So basically, there is a governance framework, and then there is a document on recommendations. And so this document we are going through now, this 5-page, is just a summary of these two. So if you're interested in more detail, then, well, I just really advise you to look also at these larger documents. Also, we will look at these larger documents on this channel, but of course, just go ahead and do it also yourself because, well, the text is available and free. So the next big part in this report is on background information. So it says that the World Health Organization Expert Advisory Committee on developing global standards for governance and oversight of human genome editing, thereafter called committee, so that we don't have to talk about its full name all the time, was charged with the reviewing of the literature on the current human genome editing research and its applications, considering existing proposals of governance and relevant ongoing initiatives, and soliciting information about societal attitudes towards the different uses of this technology. So what we are getting here is something about the literature, but also about ongoing projects, because of course, human genome editing is certainly an uncharted territory, but the genome editing in animals, in experimental animals, but also in livestock is ongoing for some time now. To better understand the scope of activities relevant to its charge, the committee mapped current, potential, and speculative human genome editing research. So this is in the governance framework box 3. So this is not extremely clear from this text, but this sends us to the governance framework document, and there is a box 3 there, which contains this information. Well, this is a rather lot of things there. So there is another video on this channel. Well, I will talk about current, potential, and speculative uses of the human genome editing in this video based on this box 3. It is a very interesting piece of information with the categorized uses of human genome editing. So really, really worthwhile to check out. Another interesting piece of information comes a little bit lower. So here, to improve the gathering of data on what research is underway or planned for human genome editing, the committee early on in its work recommended that registry to be set up using the International Clinical Trials Registry platform, which WHO, so the World Health Organization, subsequently established. And if you're interested, you can find this registry online. So this is the address, but I will also put the link in the description below. So then you can go ahead and explore this site as well. But back to our position paper. So the next parts of the text will be kind of summarizing in a short way the major topics from the two mentioned reports. So the first of these major topics is the preventing premature use of human genome editing. And well, this is just a short summary telling that to help to ensure heritable human genome editing does not proceed prematurely to clinical trials, the committee recommended, and the WHO Director General subsequently made a policy statement in July 2019, clarifying that it would be irresponsible at this time for everyone to proceed with clinical applications of human germline genome editing. Now here I want to insert my point of view on this, namely the phrasing or wording on this statement, which says that it would be irresponsible, which does not say that it's forbidden. So at the one side, there is a caution on the use, or especially the premature use of the human genome editing. But on the other side, at least this document does not plainly refuses its use. So it's not plainly forbidden. So this duality of the approach will, or kind of the recommendations will come back in my mind or in my interpretation throughout the whole document. On the one side, it urges caution, but between the lines, it says basically that it will happen eventually. So the best thing we can do is to prepare for it the best way we can with policies, recommendations, and well, all this kind of legal and ethical infrastructure. So another large part is on governance framework. And well, it says the committee was tasked to advise and make recommendation. Again, please note the words advise and make recommendations. So it's basically not a policy. Well, on appropriate institutional, national, regional, and global governance mechanisms for human genome editing. Its remit did not include review of matters of safety, efficiency of human genome editing. Well, the committee developed a governance framework that draws from good practices in the governance of emerging technologies and applied them specifically to human genome editing. The framework is intended to help those tasked with the strengthening oversight measure, regardless whether this is at the international, regional, national, or institutional level. The committee recognized some of the necessary governance structures and processes already exist. These may need to be reinforced or amended. Where such structures and processes are lacking, gaps must be filled. The governance framework provides tools to help. To maximize the positive impact and minimize the potential harms of human genome editing, the committee identified procedural, substantive values and principles to inform both how and what decisions are made. Again, here, this part or these brackets send us to the governance framework documents and table 3. Again, a comment from me that well, the committee actually seems to recognize this double-edged sword nature of genome editing, where many good things can be done, but there is a great danger of doing something unintentional. So I think this is also the reason why near the positive impact, also the potential harms are also mentioned. So we have to be very careful. And well, also this is the reason why the human genome editing, genome editing in general, but especially human genome editing, cannot proceed just by in an unorganized way. So then the text continues that to assist in tailoring oversight measures to human genome editing, this framework explores 5 specific challenges. So the first one is postnatal somatic human genome editing, prenatal in utero somatic human genome editing, heritable human genome editing, human epigenetic editing, and enhancement. For each, the committee identified series of questions that should be considered when reviewing or creating oversight measures. So all of these 5 challenges are in detail discussed in this other documents. Well, I was especially intrigued about the last one, is the human enhancement. And actually there are some very interesting notes on this matter. So of course, I will kind of follow up all of these challenges. But right now I decided that I will start with the human enhancement. So I made a video on this, and yeah, I just, well, also it's on the channel, so I just encourage you to check it out. Well, it's certainly very interesting and maybe kind of a teaser for this video that, well, we will learn that, well, also according to the committee, the super soldiers might be a thing in the future. Well, but continuing with this report, to help to take advantage of the full range of individuals and organizations able to influence or control the direction of the research and possible future uses of human genome editing, the governance framework reviews 12 sets of tools, institutions, and processes. These range from laws and regulations to professional self-regulation and the role of professional bodies to public advocacy and activism. It is intended as an indicative list of options for those working to strengthen oversight measures and will need to be tailored to the specific circumstances of the user. To demonstrate how the various components of the governance framework come together in practice, the committee used 7 scenarios, and the first one is somatic human genome editing clinical trials for sickle cell disease. The second one, somatic human genome editing clinical trials for Huntington disease. Third one, somatic human genome editing and unscrupulous entrepreneurs and clinics. Well, this will be probably quite interesting. Somatic human genome editing and epigenetic editing to enhance athletic ability. Well, let's stop here and just acknowledge that according to this report, the genetically engineered or genome edited athletes might be a thing in the future. Nice, I guess. Okay, so 5, heritable human genome editing for reproduction. 6, heritable human genome editing and unscrupulous entrepreneurs and clinics expanding assisted reproduction. And 7, prenatal in utero somatic human genome editing clinical trials for cystic fibrosis. These scenarios illustrate the practical challenges that might be encouraged in the future when implementing good governance for human genome editing research. Okay, this will be quite interesting. Okay, so we skip ahead a little bit to recommendations. So the following careful reflection and deliberation of the committee produced a series of recommendations in 9 discrete areas. The committee noted that its recommendations are subject to the limits of WHO's mandate and resources. In implementing these recommendations, the committee wished to stress the importance of avoiding unfunded mandates. So I think here this just underlines again that these are recommendations and they cannot enforce them in any way. So the leadership of WHO and its Director General, the WHO and its Director General should demonstrate both scientific and moral leadership by being open about the opportunities and challenges inherent to human genome editing, clearly stating the ethical aspects of human genome editing, including a statement on somatic human genome editing to address equitable access to the benefits of research and priority setting, and for heritable human genome editing at minimum reiteration of the Director General statement from July 2019, and outlining the consequences of failing to address the ethical issues before us if we develop and use technologies without prior careful reflection and intentional collaborative decision making. So again, there is a part on collaboration and effective governance and oversight. So the WHO should work with others to develop and implement a shared vision for an ongoing international process to identify and develop points of agreement and convergence, establish a process for identifying key decisions and points, explore the opportunities for collaborative engagement, standard setting, investigation, and oversight, and share information on relevant existing and planned policies, laws, regulations, and guidelines. In the interim, the Director General should institute a cross-institutional approach. Also, there is a part on human genome editing registries that we talked about already. And then there is an interesting part on international research and medical travel, which says that the Director General, in consultation with the new Science Council, should make a policy statement that somatic or germline human genome editing research should only take place in jurisdictions with domestic policy and oversight mechanisms. WHO, with guidance from the Science Council, should integrate into all of its relevant activities a focus on fostering responsible international research and medical travel. Here also, I have a short comment that all of this is really nice. But what if, a country, any country, says that they are not implementing, any domestic policy and oversight mechanisms, or they deliberately implement such a weak oversight measures that it basically creates a safe haven for genome editing. Perhaps also with the intention to lure this kind of research into their in their borders, which I imagine in the future will be coupled with quite a substantial amount of money. Well, so all these kind of policy statements are nice and all, but I don't know how they can be enforced on the global level, especially if we take into account the countries are free. So basically, they do what they want within their borders and with their own laws. So yeah, this would be another interesting point in the future, how the global concentration of the human genome editing will, or where it will concentrate and why. So another interesting part on illegal, unregistered, unethical, or unsafe research and other activities. The WHO, with advice from its recently established Science Council, should charge the Science Division to lead an effort to create a multi-sector collaboration to develop an accessible mechanisms for confidential reporting of concerns about possibly illegal, unregistered, unethical, or unsafe human genome editing research or other activities. So this part alone raises, again, a whole new set of questions that are, let's say, challenging to answer. And there is also a part about the money. And well, it doesn't say here, but it says intellectual property and, well, something connected with the patents, which I believe if there are some companies which hold the right patents or the patents that will be heavily used in the future, well, these companies will be very, very rich once the human genome editing goes into a wide-scale application. And again, so this report is basically talking about cautions and regulations, but well, along or between the lines, I think it just prepares the ground for the application of the human genome editing in the medical practice and perhaps also beyond. So, but let's focus on the text. So the intellectual property, the WHO should work with the others to encourage relevant patent holders to help ensure equitable access to human genome editing interventions. Second, to encourage industry to work with resource-constrained countries to build capacity to take advantage of human genome editing inventions. So here, this is what I'm saying, that basically they are talking about taking advantage of the invention. So they are talking about the use of the human genome editing. So I mean, this is why I think that this is the whole report is just basically the first step towards preparing the ground of the use of the human genome editing in the practice. But anyway, we continue. Number 3, to convene a meeting of those holding or applying for patents relevant to human genome editing industry bodies, international organizations such as the World Intellectual Property Organization and the World Trade Organization, and those involved in establishing or running relevant patent pools to explore the potential for the adoption of appropriate ethical licensing requirements. So again, a new set of questions about patents, access to the patents, how these patents should be run, and well, I'm personally quite interested what they mean by the adoption of appropriate ethical licensing requirements. What is an ethical licensing requirement? That is what I don't know, but anyway. Another part on education, engagement, and empowerment. So the Director General should call upon the United Nations Secretary General to establish a United Nations interagency working group on frontier technologies that facilitates global dialogue and produces a report outlining the implications of innovative technologies, including human genome editing, and the ethical frameworks to guide their application. And the second one is to call for an inclusive dialogue on the future of human genome editing, including scientific, ethical, and societal aspects. So there is also a new piece of information here that the United Nations should be involved, and that there should be a dialogue on the future of human genome editing. Okay, so we continue with the text. So the WHO should develop models of best practice of inclusive, multi-directional, multi-stakeholder dialogue and supporting materials that can be applied to human genome editing. And the second one is to explore how best to include the decision-making underrepresented groups that are interested in human genome editing. So basically, for me, this part says that once the technology will be applied, then everybody should have access. The following part is on the ethical values and principles for use by the WHO. So the WHO should charge the Health Ethics and Governance Unit in the Science Division to lead an effort to create a set of officially endorsed and clearly defined ethical values and principles for use by its expert committees and the WHO deliberations. These values and principles should be built on public health goals and priorities. These should go beyond the WHO workforce and provide an important roadmap for progress towards the organization's goals. And the report or this position paper ends with the review of recommendations that it said that in no more than 3 years, the WHO's science division should initiate an extensive review of these recommendations and the progress made to implement them. This review should not take longer than 18 months and should take into account scientific, technological, and societal changes, adequacy of implementation, and assessment of impact and potential future needs or concerns. And basically, this is the end of the report or end of this position paper. So then the promised end summary from me or from my side, telling my thoughts about the subject. So basically, I will just repeat and perhaps expand a little bit on the thoughts that I had also during the video or during the reading of the text, namely that genome editing itself is well, certainly a new part of science or new scientific approach that is or was already successfully implemented in animals or in livestock, but its use in humans, for a human genome editing and basically to change the human population also for the future is certainly raises a large number of questions. Well, this report does not answer these questions, but basically tries to give a very structured format for these questions, or basically summarizing all these questions and aspects. Also, it's clearly says that it's a recommendation, so it's not any kind of policy or rule or regulation that will be implemented. Also, the phrasing is careful, that doesn't say that the human genome editing will be implemented. On the other hand, from my point of view, it prepares the ground for the implementation of the human genome editing regulation. So basically, it reviews what kind of changes are necessary and how the governance of the human genome editing should take place once it is a commonplace and a commonly accepted practice. My personal opinion is that the approach is and will remain very controversial and will pose and is posing a lot of ethical questions, especially ethical and other kind of biological questions when it comes to application, especially in human population. But at the same time, I think that it is really just a question of time when it will be officially allowed to be used for various purposes. Now, if you're interested in a rather detailed list of these purposes or possibilities of use, then I encourage you to check out my video on this matter, which I will link in the description below, and also another video on a genome editing, which deals with the genome editing for human enhancement. Both of these videos are based on this report, in the same WHO report that we were discussing now. If you're interested in this subject and want to see more of it on the channel, then you could, well, tell it in the comments. That's the first thing. You can also hit the like button, or of course, you can send the video to your friends and colleagues. So, well, it gets basically more views and more exposure. Of course, if you're not subscribed, I just encourage you to push the subscribe button so you are notified when new videos come online about the genome editing or the many other subjects related to genomics that we discuss on this channel. As of now, I thank you very much for your time and patience for this rather long video. And well, see you at the next one. Have a very, very nice day.